What is up, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new video, and in today's video we are going to be talking all about sample libraries. Always a hot topic in the composer community because it really influences the music that we make, and the decisions we make when purchasing these guys can be very drastic. So I just wanted to show you kind of like my personal preferences for affordable all the way to boutique samples in today's video, give you kind of a comprehensive look into what's kind of on the market, and then at the very end I'll show you what I personally like to use. And of course, if you agree or disagree with me in any way, please let me know in a comment. I'd love to know what you're using personally, and if you're using libraries that I present in this video, then feel free to also let me know as well. So first of all, let's quickly talk about what sample libraries are. They're essentially a collection of recorded sounds in one package. Now, this can range from piano, guitars, acoustic instruments, to orchestral instruments, strings, woodwinds, brass, percussion. You could even have, pop sample libraries. You could have ethnic ones. You could have jazz ones. Really any genre of music can be put into a sample library. Essentially, when you record a single sound and that becomes a sample, then you can actually map that sample or that sound to a keyboard. You can map it to a MIDI controller and you can actually play it yourself. So that's the power of sample libraries. So you're essentially bringing instruments virtually to your fingertips through recorded sounds. So the way it works is you purchase the license to use these sounds in your own music productions. So for example, with a company like Native Instruments, you would then pay them to use their recorded pianos, for example. Like they recorded a piano, all 88 keys, they bundle it up into a package, you purchase that package, and now you have virtual access to that piano that you can use in your own productions and your own music, which is really cool. So the choice out there in the market is vast, but let's try to narrow it down and explore some options that are available to us today. So let's start with some free ones. Everyone loves free, right? I mean, that's why I love Costco. The samples are amazing. Anyway, Orchestral Tools has their layers, which is featured in their own player, the Sine player. Spitfire Audio has their BBC Symphony Orchestra Discover. They also have the Labs series, which is a really wonderful really wonderful collection of instruments that you can download absolutely free to use in your own productions. Also, Orchestra Tools just came out with something called Sine Factory, which is constantly being updated, but they currently have a few instruments that you can download for free as well. Kind of similar to the Spitfire Labs stuff. Then we have Project Sam with their free orchestra. I featured this library along with the lab stuff and layers in a video on my channel, trying to create a trailer track from scratch just using these free libraries, and I think it turned out pretty well. And then finally, Cinesamples has some freebies, as does Embertone and some other companies that offer freebies to kind of get you into the ecosystem and give you a little taste of what they offer. So that's also always really nice. And the options for free stuff are just getting better all the time. So you can definitely make some good stuff with free options. The only downside to free really is that there is a lack of comprehensive samples, and you won't really get an entire package that does a lot of what you need to get done. I mean, you get the basics, you get the essentials usually most of the time. Or usually the free products will be kind of like niche little things, like maybe a toy box or a sleigh bell or something like that, But when it comes to like full-fledged like string libraries, woodwinds, or something like that, usually free libraries will maybe give you one or two articulations. Usually it won't come with legato, and it's kind of like the bare bones version of what you really need, but it at least gives you a taste if you're not like super invested in that type of stuff yet. It gives you a taste. Moving on to some affordable libraries, kind of under $200, somewhere around that price range. We have the 8DO tri-packs, which are a great way to get into their libraries for a very affordable price. East West has their infamous Composer Cloud, or famous Composer Cloud, I shouldn't say infamous. And yeah, basically you download the instruments that you need. You have access to all of them as long as you remain subscribed to their products. And as soon as you cancel, you don't have access anymore. And so that's really useful if you are like, let's say an EDM producer and you just need maybe some strings for one track, but you probably won't use them again in other tracks. Then you can, download download Hollywood strings for that one track, and then you can stop using it anymore after that. Another library that's pretty famous here is Audio Imperia's Nucleus Lite. They also have a full Nucleus library, which is a couple $100 more, but Lite gives you the bare essentials that you really need. And then Sonic Scores has their Amadeus Symphonic Orchestra. I've never used this one, but it is available for $149, and I believe it contains both solo and ensemble instruments, so that's also a nice option to have. Then we go into a little pricier stuff. We have the Cinematic Studio Series, which is basically $400 per orchestral section. At the time of this recording, they have the strings, woodwinds, and brass, and solo strings as well, and a piano. So a really solid range here of instruments. Cinesamples has their Cinebrass and Cinewinds, which are at $399 and $349 respectively. And you can kind of see the pattern here that, per section, if you want a comprehensively sampled orchestral section, like you just want the strings, but you want good strings that have different articulations and will cover your needs, then around $400, $500 is what you're going to be looking to spend USD. Project Sam has their Symphobia 1 and 2, which are $329 each, I believe. Orchestral Tools has their Berlin Inspire 1 and 2, which are €399. And this series is basically a collection of their Berlin series, basically in a smaller package. So it gives you a taste of the Berlin series, which is a little more symphonic, very, very comprehensively sampled, but those are, those individual libraries like Berlin Strings, Woodwinds, Brass, and Percussion, they are more top shelf prices, but the Berlin Inspire stuff is like a stripped down version of all of those libraries bundled into 1 and 2. Spitfire Audio has their BBC Symphony Orchestra Core, which is like the mid-level version of the product. It gives you a good set of microphone positions. You get legato, you get a bunch of instruments. So definitely check that out if you're looking for the sound of the BBC. And then finally, our Audio Imperia has their Nucleus library, which is at $449. Moving on to the boutique samples. So this is like the third tier I'm going to explore here, which are basically like $600, $700, $800 and above. Orchestral Tools has their Berlin series, which goes up to €840 for the Berlin strings at the time of this recording. Spitfire Audio has their BBC Symphony Orchestra, which is basically $1,000. They also have individual strings, woodwinds, brass, percussion libraries that are around the same range. Cinesamples, their most expensive library is Cineperc, I think, and that sits right at $699 or $700 because it's a very all-encompassing percussion library. It was originally 4 libraries bundled into one. Stress of Sampling has their Afflatus Chapter 1 strings, a dedicated string library, which is more like 10 string libraries bunched into one, but that is available for €800. And then Vienna Symphonic Library also has some great products at high prices, but they've also, created some more affordable options nowadays as well if you are interested in what they do. So the main differences in all of these samples is mainly the workflow and the recording space, right? So some of these companies record in scoring stages where there are more balanced between the room and also the detail in the sound. However, Spitfire is known for their recordings at Air Studios, which is a very reverberant church space, and sometimes it creates this really washy sound, which might be desirable for you. But I think a lot of people find themselves using the close mics in combination with the tree mics, just to bring out that detail a little bit more. And on the flip side of that, Vienna Symphonic Library is known to record in a very dry acoustic. And so you have to, put those instruments into your own room by using reverbs and delays if you like. But they've also been recording at the Synchron stage as well, which is a scoring stage, and it has more room signature there. Okay, moving on to one of my favorite genres, jazz. We have a couple of options here. Ones that aren't mentioned are audio modeling or sample modeling. They do some really good stuff. Basically, they are not true sampled instruments. I believe they are modeled after the real thing. So it's like created from scratch rather than recordings of real instruments. But it makes it a lot more flexible, and you can do whatever you want to those. For me personally, I like Orchestral Tools Glory Days Big Band Horns. It's a library that records individual trumpets, trombones, and saxophones. Project Sam has their Swing and Swing More series, which are about the $300, $400 range. Sonic Kinetic has a phrase-based jazz library called Noir, which is really cool. And Realitone has their Screaming Trumpet, which is $99. I should also add that Straight Ahead Samples has their trumpet library called Birth of the Trumpet, which is kind of similar to Screaming Trumpet, but it has a really cool feature called Smart Delay, which delays your performance by 4 beats, but goes through like 1,000 different samples to find the right ones for your performance. So I did a review for that library, as well as Screaming Trumpet, Glory Days, and Noir. Okay, so the truth about samples is there is so much available on the market, right? And technology nowadays is incredible. We can create such wonderful results with so little. And I'm a big proponent of that. I think that you actually don't need very much to get started. And I have a lot of people ask, like, what sample library should I get next? Am I covered? Like, what do I need? And to be honest, I think you could really get by with maybe 2 or 3 dedicated libraries for each section. I mean, even starting with 1, like if you buy the libraries from one developer, like let's say you chose Spitfire and you went for the strings, woodwinds, brass, and percussion, then you are set, right? You have a great set of samples. You just have to get used to the workflow because they're most likely consistent between those different libraries. And the only thing is that you will have one particular sound, assuming that those libraries are all recorded in the same space. So that's when you would need to take a look at maybe adding a different library if you need a different tone signature and you can't get what you're looking for from the initial library, from your first library that you already have. So that's the question you should always be asking is, what can this new library I'm looking at do that my current existing libraries cannot do? And I think if you can answer that question very fairly, right? Because sometimes like people don't get the best out of the library before investing in a new one. They kind of just look at the shiny new toy and say, oh, I want this thing. It looks so cool. And then it ends up not being used as much. So always ask yourself that and really try to learn your libraries before investing in new ones. And they'll give you a chance to realize what the library can and cannot do, right? So what you should do is invest in a good set of tools to set a good foundation. So whether that means investing in one developer, getting all the different sections from that one developer, or mixing and matching from different developers. Just make sure you're set with the basics that you really need and get the most that you can out of those essentials. Just remember, you get what you pay for. So if you are opting for free stuff, then naturally it's going to be less comprehensive and you will probably end up needing to purchase libraries in the future anyway to cover the more individual and specific needs of your projects anyway in the future. So I think libraries around the $300-$400 range for dedicated sections, if we're talking about the orchestral samples, if you are dedicated to working in orchestral music, right, and you want flexible instruments, then I think the Cinematic Studio series is wonderful. Actually, I should show you. The Cinematic Studio series is wonderful. I use Cinesample stuff all the time as well. And Orchestral Tools, I use their Berlin and Metropolis ARC series in addition to that. So Orchestral Tools, the Berlin stuff is more catered to the classical film score sound, whereas the Metropolis ARC, they have 1 through 4 at the time of this recording, is dedicated to more orchestral trailer scores, so more bombastic and more upfront in your face type of sounds. Cinesample Cinesymphony is kind of known for their Hollywood sound. That's kind of reminiscent of the John Williams scores that we all know and love, and they recorded the Sony stage, which really, really sounds gorgeous. I just made a note that their piano and harps libraries are incredible. I can't forget to mention the brass. The Cinebrass is a classic, and I have both Core and Pro, in addition to like the Descant horn and the Sonore library. It's so nice, it's so nice. And then Cinematic Studio series, they have a very, very consistent set of libraries, strings, woodwinds, brass, and the legato is fantastic. The sound signature is slightly darker, but a little bit of EQ can help with that. And of course, if you have different developers, you should be mixing and matching to find the tone that really suits your purposes, So don't lock yourself into one sound signature 100% of the time. If you do want to expand a little bit and experiment, then go ahead and layer in samples together and see what you can do. That's the beauty of sample libraries. You can really experiment, and you're not really locked into anything because it's all software and it's not like a real live recording. Anyway, nothing will replace real recordings, but you know what? I've learned a lot of orchestration and arranging techniques through sample libraries. So I'm very thankful to the companies that actually do this hard work for us, and they deserve our money if it's going to help us with our productions, and if they do a good job, then everyone wins. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And hey, if you don't have my sample library buyer's guide yet, it's really a really in-depth resource that really goes into every single sample library that I personally use on a daily basis. Covers all the orchestral sections plus pianos, jazz libraries, everything like that, ethnic libraries that we didn't cover in this video. But hopefully that can help you with your next purchasing decision. It's absolutely free. If you click the first link in the description box, it'll take you to where you can download it, and I hope it helps you. And yeah, just let me know, do you use these current libraries that I shared in this video? If not, tell me the ones that you do use and why you use them and why you like to use them. There's just so much choice on the market today, so the more choice, the more competition, the better it is, because it forces us and the developers to really step up the game every time they release something new. It's not always a home run, but when they do get it right, it's always nice. So anyway, thank you so very much for watching. I'll catch you in the next video, and take care. Bye bye.